Roger. Please be informed there is a Santa Claus.
All right, and welcome to the Acid for Squares podcast. We're here with my parents. Hello, with Dee Snider and Suzette Snider. Thank you for coming on.
And you are?
I am your son.
Oh, okay.
I'm the one that was an accident.
That's BS.
I believe
it was not an
A
accident.
diaphragm
I didn't know
is
about
what
this.
was used.
You were a sponge baby.
I was a sponge baby.
Oh my God, so Seinfeld of
There's
you.
Yes.
holes in the sponge.
Wasn't
sir.
holes. Yes, sponges are not infallible.
I got through.
And you got through.
They don't use the sponge anymore.
Yeah, through.
That's me.
But,
They discontinued it right after I got pregnant.
right after.
Did they really?
Other reason.
yeah, I'm comfortable in saying freedom. We believe in freedom of choice. And we said, yeah, we want this one.
And you had me. I
We want
appreciate
We
it.
told you this a million times. We were planning on a next one. It just wasn't at that moment.
I was
But then my super sperm made its way through the sponge and into your mother's uterus.
I'm honored. I appreciate it. Thanks for keeping
I
me.
mean, I'm glad that the sponge didn't work.
Yeah.
She should be.
I appreciate it.
This is changing the world, man.
That's right. That's right, baby.
You would have came back next time I got pregnant.
Yeah?
Your soul would have
You believe that? You believe
Yes.
a soul comes in, like waits and comes into the next vessel?
Yes.
You believe that?
I do.
I think that's
Isn't that what we believe?
I read
Isn't
it.
that what we were
I think that's
informed?
a George
I
Anderson,
read it.
which is
She wrote
And
it
I
down and then
believe
read it, but she read it.
well, that's that's a perfect segue because I think that's George Anderson. That's
That
the
is-
medium.
that is.
That's the medium. That's
Yeah.
What's his
Which
face?
really
Anderson.
makes sense.
Yes.
But
Yeah, I
explain
believe
who
it.
George Harrison is.
Yeah. Okay.
George Harrison.
Yeah, George
Wait a minute.
Harrison.
Excuse me.
Wrong George. Wrong
Anybody want
George.
some?
So when we were, I don't know, was I 12? We were raised in a very agnostic household, would you say?
Nice.
Atheist? I mean, it was like Christian values. We celebrated the holidays and stuff, but we didn't, I don't know, science.
Agnostic is where you believe in God or a
There's
higher
something,
power,
but you don't know what it
believe in
is.
organized religion.
No, it's
Isn't that it?
So
I think you just don't know what it is.
I think atheism, being agnostic is sort of like, I believe there's something, but I believe
But I don't know
we
what
don't
it
know
is.
what it
Yeah.
is, and there's no way for us to know.
It's certainly not into organized religion, that's for sure.
Right, we definitely weren't raised with
Yeah.
that. There's
I'd say that's fair.
So there was the phenomenon. There was a phenomenon that took place. I think I was 12 or 11 years old, and it was around Mom. It was around your brother's murder, and it's one of the coolest ghost stories I've heard you guys tell it. You told it on
Celebrity Ghost Stories, yeah.
on the Bio Channel.
Season 1.
I want you guys to tell that story because a lot of this show is like unpacking the supernatural, sort of like the intersection between science and spirituality. It's really just trying to like take all this phenomenon and throw it on the floor and dissect it.
Yeah.
I'd say take me to, so he's murdered in broad daylight.
He got murdered in the
He's
streets of New
assassinated.
York, on the streets, he was working construction
During rush hour.
during rush hour. 9 a.m. at like 9 o'clock in the morning. He was just arriving on the job site.
Midtown.
Yeah, it was a major news story. And we all knew who was responsible. Whether he did it himself or he had somebody do it, we knew who was responsible. And should we say who's responsible? He's in prison.
Yeah.
Chris Tarantino, his name is. Chris Tarantino. Vinny knew this guy was really bad. And Vinny was a very traditional person. He was not a type of person that would ever, they said the word is, they use a snitch. He was not that kind of person at all, ever, ever, ever. He'd rather, die 1,000 deaths than rat out somebody or talk about somebody else or tell something else. But with this guy, as Vinny said, this guy is really bad and somebody's got to stop him. And so Vinny had recorded a tape on this guy talking about
Confessing.
about murders.
Multiple murders.
So-
including his friends, right?
Well, yeah, there was somebody, I don't know if it was friends, but somebody, there was a couple people on the tape. So Vinny, when we heard, we said Vinny, are you crazy, man? recording a tape like this or whatever. And he said, somebody's got to stop this guy. Unfortunately, this led to Vinny being murdered. But we knew who was responsible. And everybody knew. But no arrests were being made.
Well, that's not true. Actually, we didn't know. They dragged us into the city. My whole family, my dad, my siblings, we all went into the city. They all put us in separate rooms, and they were interrogating us, each one of us separately, but yet they wouldn't tell us anything that happened. So we didn't know anything. I didn't believe Vinny was dead. I thought Vinny was in, protection. I didn't believe he was dead. He wasn't supposed to go to work that day. It didn't make any sense. I thought for sure he was still alive and he was hiding somewhere. And but they wouldn't tell us anything, so they would brought us all in there multiple times.
Very weird. They treat you like you're criminals.
Yeah, it was really awful.
And suspects, and it's family who are grieving.
It was awful.
It's an odd thing the police do, and I know they don't. Everybody's a suspect or whatever, I guess. But it's really it's really awful.
So anyway, we left, and I was furious. I wanted revenge, and I was getting angry and angry as the days were going by.
So Suzette, being from that background,
From
felt
Brooklyn.
and the mob mentality, you're supposed to avenge your family. You're supposed to show loyalty, and we all knew who it was, and it was infuriating. The police were not. As far as we could see, this guy's on the street.
Know.
This guy showed up at the
He was
at
at
the
funeral. That was
No, what?
He showed up at the funeral. It was
Whoa, the audacity.
It was such a slap. The whole thing was just
Now,
like.
I'm sure in his mind he said, if I don't show, because they were
Then
friends,
they would know.
if I don't show up, that makes me suspicious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I've got to show up. So we're all in the room, and you could imagine they're beside themselves with him in the room. But they knew who it was, but nothing. The wheels of justice turned very slowly, and nothing was happening. So Suzette, being who she is, was just burning up with this, and I got to do something. I got to do something. Around this time, to most of my recollection, is when things started happening that were out of the ordinary. Now, I am a non-believer. She was a little bit of a believer because you told me you saw your mom at your bedside in ghosts and things like that. But I was a full non-believer at that point. If something weird happened, it got to be next. Wind blew, there was a vibration, something happened.
And how soon after was this?
This is very shortly after because she is very obsessed. That's not too strong a word. With this, his brother was just murdered.
Possessed.
I was angry.
Obsessed.
I was
Obsessed,
angry about
possessed.
the way we were being treated. I was angry that Vinny would have died for this guy.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Take me to you're while grieving and also dealing with all of this.
The paranormal.
When did the phenomenon first start taking place? I don't know if even I can remember the first. I think it was picture frames falling. off the
Yeah,
walls.
it started simple. It started with picture frames falling down, falling off the wall.
We had a lot of pictures and platinum and gold records hanging around. There was a lot of hanging things.
Yeah,
And
even standing up things were falling over.
Yeah, but it does. Like
Because at first when they fall, you're like,
because it's not like the
movie.
movies where things
Yeah.
are flying
Yeah.
and they're all falling at once. It's just that a thing fell. Oh, a picture fell.
Yeah.
And then the next day another picture falls.
And TVs were turning on and off, and
Oh, wow.
radios were going on and off. A lot of weird things.
I
And
remember there was a radio in the attic. We go into the attic. Do you remember that?
No, I thought that was in the playroom. Cheyenne had a little Dahl's car that
Yes.
had a radio in it.
Yes.
And all of a
Yes.
sudden I hear a radio playing
was like a preacher.
in the
Yeah.
toy box.
Yeah.
And I go, what the hell is that? I go and digging through it, and the car radio in this Barbie doll car turned on.
if you remember, we were shooting that one of the reality shows.
I don't remember.
and the two girl directors.
Heidi and Rachel.
Yeah,
Loki
they were
Films,
there.
yeah.
I told them the house was haunted, and they laughed at me. And then while we were filming, they saw strange things going on, and they left and they said, "You're right, the house is haunted."
So these at a certain point, that's a lot of pictures falling, and and frames and breaking.
And just
But I'm
strange
still,
things.
for me, I'm dismissing. For her, she's starting to go, wait a minute, you hear about this all the time in paranormal activity, pictures falling. So the next big one was we came home from dinner one day, the whole family.
Drums.
The drums.
I was there. We
You
all
were
were
there.
there.
Yeah.
And we walked in the house. Well,
we got
you
out of the
weren't
car.
there. No, you were there, but you weren't next to Shane and me because Shane thought it was you. And he got on it was almost comical. We walk in the house and drums are playing badly. Vinny was not a good drummer.
You had to explain. Shane had a drum set.
Yeah, Shane had a drum
upstairs
set
in his bedroom.
upstairs in the bedroom. And someone's hitting, and Shane's with me, and Shane goes over. We had an intercom system, and he presses the button. Cody, stop playing my drums. And Cody says, "I'm not playing."
No, Cody came out of the bathroom.
Wherever he
Walks out of
was,
the
he
bathroom.
walked up to us and said, "I'm not playing your drums." So the fact we're like,
And then
"Well,"
Shane.
and they're still playing.
Yeah, Shane ran upstairs to his bedroom, opened the door, and the cymbals were still moving.
Oh my
And
God.
nobody was there. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
I do.
nobody was there. So that was okay. That was odd.
Just
That
a little
was a
bit.
little odd.
I just got to say is that when this started going on, I really wasn't spiritual yet. This was the beginning of my journey. And so when you are not spiritual, you question everything and you don't believe it. So you just go, that didn't happen, or I'm imagining things. You make excuses for it. And this started my path. And it's interesting because this is one of those things that moved me forward on my path. But anyway, go ahead, continue.
Well, at this point, drums playing, pictures falling.
That's a pretty big
Radio's
one.
playing.
Yeah, she goes and gets a book.
Oh, right. I go and get a book about, getting messages from spirits. And I'm reading the book, and I never forget, I'm sitting on my bed, and Dee's walking around by the
I'm in the room.
In the foot of the
I'm in the room, and it's important to know that I witnessed this, because if she told me about it, I wouldn't have believed it. I would have said, because it was, and she is reading the book, and she says the book says they communicate through electronics.
Yeah.
Ask a pointed question. Say, do this.
You said this in the room?
It
while
said-
you
it
were
said
both
this
there?
I'm
they tell
reading it
you.
in the book.
Yeah, to
And
ask
I'm
them
reading
to
it
do
out
something.
loud to him.
Ask them to do something.
Right.
And to show you they're there.
And I
Off.
said,
Okay.
Vinny, if you are here, turn on the TV.
That's it. And I mean,
Pow.
pop. I mean,
TV went on.
no delay,
Wow.
no
Oh my
nothing.
God.
I was like,
It was jaw dropping.
it's Vinny.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sitting there again. I'm scientist going.
gosh.
All right, that's a tough one to dispute. I mean, it was literally do something to TV
Immediately.
on.
It's time.
Like
the
that.
timing. The timing.
And for those who watch, who will go and say, I want to check out that a celebrity ghost story. They did reenactments, and they did all this stuff as dimly lit
It's
in the
broad
bedroom.
daylight.
In the bedroom, the lights were on. I mean, it wasn't all cloaked and
Creepy.
dark and creepy. It was very.
It was it daytime or something?
No, whatever. Whatever. The lights are on. That's
Yeah.
make a point of it. So, I don't know. Something about the fact that you hear and see this stuff, and it's not mysterious. It's happening, So we got the book. The TV goes on, and Suzette says, "I need to talk to somebody. I need to communicate with Vinny. Find out he's trying to reach me."
Well, this is the problem, is that I was obsessed with getting revenge. And I wasn't 100% sure that Chris committed the crime, because the cops were not telling us anything. They weren't making arrests. And so I didn't know.
And here's Vinny. Now we know he's trying to communicate with her.
Yeah, Vinny's
So
trying to
he
talk
wants to
me.
tell me something.
Obviously, he's
Yeah.
trying to get a hold of
Yeah,
you.
and it was very active. So it was like, okay, this is important. He's really trying to communicate with me. I have to talk to Vinny.
And you'd already been reading George
So
Anderson
when
your mom passed.
when my mom died a few years before my brother Vinny, I really took it hard. And I started reading a book by George Anderson called Lessons from the Light. And it became like my Bible, all of his books. It really helped me through a
He's
really
amazing.
difficult time. It was really incredible. And George Anderson's from Long Island.
Yeah.
So Dee sprinkles his magic.
Well,
that's where
she
you were
wants to
living
talk to
at the time.
somebody, and
Yeah.
and George Anderson was renowned. I don't know where he. I'm surprised I'm not seeing him on
Little-
Gaia.
No,
Little-
he's probably dead now.
No,
He was
he's
very
actually still alive because
Is
I've
he?
looked at.
Hi,
have him on
George.
the
Sorry,
show.
we didn't mean to assume you were dead.
a little context. So he, I believe, got like Lyme disease or lupus as a kid, and he was essentially dead. And pretty much his brain stopped working, his heart stopped beating, and the doctors didn't think he was going to live. He survived and could see, ghosts
After that.
After that,
He
and
started seeing.
he was in Catholic school at the time and was on the recess, the playground going, "Hey, Timmy, your grandma's here and she wants me to let you know that everything's going to be okay and forgive your brother." And, kids are crying and they institutionalize them, put him in a insane
Yep.
asylum.
Oh.
So, but he is one of the most amazing mediums and no one really knows about him because he's not very public facing, you
No.
know? So, yeah. So,
But it was very hard to get to see him. He
was like
had
a year wait, right?
year wait to see him. But I knew a guy who knew a guy, and we got Suzette in to see him. Well, Suzette and myself, we went together, and
And that was a crazy experience.
So what happened?
That was
What happened
was
was-
that my first psychic I saw?
no, is it?
I think that may have been my first psychic.
I don't know why I think it isn't because
I've
you
seen many since.
you were not. You were,
I think it was
Even the
your
one in
first.
Nashville.
I
on the
think it was your first.
I think no, I don't think it was the first because she was unhappy with the
Well-
way he delivered the message.
Wait, so
Well,
what happened?
Okay,
He's
so
very-
first of all,
he's
he
very
had it-
awkward.
It was really expensive. I mean, it was $1,000 back then, and
Back
that's
in
been
19
20 years ago. That's a lot of money.
Back in
And-
'99.
and he meets you in a hotel room. So you go to this hotel room, and we walk into this dark hotel room, and there's two chairs across from each other like this, and then there's a little couch. And Dee went and sat by the couch, and I sit across him, and he says to me, "Don't say anything," and I don't say anything, and his eyes roll over the back of his head, and he's got a pad and a pen, and he's doing this. And his eyes are rolling over.
He's not writing anything down.
No,
he's just
he's scribbling.
making this move.
Now he doesn't say
motion.
hello or nice to meet
Oh,
you.
really?
Or nothing. No,
Very
nothing.
cold.
Just don't say a word. That's what
And
he
the
said.
environment also was just. She might remember this differently than I do, but it was like a Holiday Inn.
Yeah.
But he had rented a room that didn't have a bed in it, so it was sort of like a
room.
meeting room.
Yeah, it was
where they
a-
had a couple of chairs, like you can get suites where you have a one room. So he had so it felt like almost like a doctor's office.
It was weird.
It was like you were going in very clinical.
I wouldn't say that, but
Well, not like white and robes or anything, but it didn't feel warm and fuzzy.
no.
Yeah.
That was for sure.
So his eyes
So-
rolling back of his head. He's scribbling on
He's
paper.
scribbling, and so all of a sudden he tells me my family members come through, and he goes, and there are a lot here because I've had a lot of deaths, and he goes, but they're all whispering that the one you want to see is new and don't know how to get here, and I'm like, oh my God, my mom was there, my mother says a few things to me. My uncle says something to me. My grandmother said, and they're all going, "Oh, wait, he's here. I'm gonna start crying."
That's
And
okay.
so anyway, Vinny comes through, and we start arguing. I'm fighting with a ghost. He goes, "My brother's very sarcastic and very funny and very stubborn," and I'm trying to find out what happened, and I'm angry because I want revenge, and he keeps telling me to let it go.
Yeah, she was not expecting that message. She thought he wanted to tell her something, but let it go.
Kept saying-
That doesn't jibe with her family.
So that's the message he was trying to get
So
across?
so I'm like arguing with him, and I'm arguing. First thing the guy says is, "Don't talk," and I'm literally fighting with the ghost. And he says to me, "Do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you want me to tell you the truth?"
That's what Vinny said
Vinny says to me.
to her.
Right, so
Whoa.
he's channeling
Through the
him.
cha-
So he's
Yeah.
speaking as if he's Vinny. He's channeling him.
And he had Vinny's sarcastic tone, and Vinny, and that's why I'm fighting with him, because he's so thick-headed, and I'm fighting with this man, and I leave, and I'm hostile.
We
I'm
walked
like,
out in the hallway, and she was like, "That was awful." She's pissed.
I'm so
Pissed.
angry.
Now I'm sitting there observing.
It was not what I wanted to hear. It was not the kind of conversation I wanted to have.
And George, this is not a slight on you. It's your method, but he's almost trance-like, and he's not looking at you, and he's kind of
Because he's not in his body.
It's
Yeah.
awkward.
Channeling a dead person is more difficult than you think.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not as easy as
Well,
snap,
it looks
snap.
pretty easy
It's
on Gaia.
It's a dirty guy.
I'm talking to them now. Okay. Anyway, he, to his credit, recorded every session, and you left with a cassette tape, cassettes, a long time ago, and to take home. And before we left, one of the things they tell you is what questions you want answered. You guys say it all the time before
Like
you
an
go into
intention?
ceremony. Intentions.
Yeah.
What are your intentions? So she had her list, and I'm listening, going, "This is everything she wanted." She's just not, because the way it's being communicated.
It wasn't what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, and so she was thrown by it. So we went home, and I took the tape and I transcribed it, and I typed the whole thing up word for word, and I brought it in. And I said, "Suzette, read this." Not
It was like a book.
yeah, not meeting, not with George in the room, not in the moment, not, now that you've sat down, read it. Everything you want to know, he's answering you. And she wanted to make sure she was concerned that he was okay and that he was with family. And he was. And she wanted to hear from her grandmother and her mother, and they all came forward. Everybody she wanted to speak to came forward.
I was raised Catholic. In the Catholic religion, when you don't do things properly, you go to hell. And that was one of my big things, that I was worried that my brother was in hell. And he wasn't. And he was with my family, and he was safe. And, so that was really
So
comforting.
she's reading through it, and after she read it, she realized that she heard his message.
Well, the really sad part of it, I'm going to cry, but
It's beautiful when she cries too.
stop.
It's okay. No?
I'm sorry, baby.
Vinny was suicidal, and he tried to kill himself 3 times before that.
Yeah, and he told her that he wanted to die.
Yeah. When my mom died, I begged Vinny not to kill himself because I wouldn't be able to handle it. And he didn't. But he caused this whole thing with the tape so he could be murdered and die.
See, that's one of those things where you can't do it yourself, so you put things into action that will bring death upon, like running at a policeman with a toy gun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a name for it. I don't know what it is.
So he
but
told you this?
he-
That's what he did?
And he wanted to leave, and he was happier.
Oh, wow.
He was happier.
I
'Cause
get
he
why
wasn't-
that would be hard to hear.
It was a
too.
very, last couple of years now I'm getting choked up, were brutal with her brother. He was in institutions. He tried to take his own life. I remember on Halloween, a year to the day that her mom died. It was around Halloween. And he was trying to commit suicide, and we were rushing to the city we pull up on the block, and there's emergency vehicles, and they're wheeling him out. And he didn't die, but it was just a lot of that going on. He was very unhealthy mentally, and he was very unhappy.
He regretted a lot of things that he was involved in, and he was he dealt with a lot of guilt and trauma.
So
When you read that, did you feel like you got the answers you needed?
So the whole thing, all he kept telling me was to let it go, and it's water under the bridge, and it'll all work out
It all
in the
come out
wash.
in the wash. It all come out in
And
the wash.
it's all he kept saying is that he's happy now, and just let it go. He just kept saying it over and over again. Let it go, let it go.
And she did.
I let it go.
I mean, I know if she didn't let it go, she really said, this is what he wants. It's going to come out in the wash.
I felt like that's he wanted me to get revenge. I felt that that's what he would have wanted me to do for him. So that's why I wanted to do it for him. And so while he's saying to me, that's not what I want, I said, okay, that's really not what I want. So, okay, I'll let it go. If you're okay, I'm okay.
And this led to the grandest, most scary, in many ways, moment of them all. And that is a night, and Cody, you were there.
I was there.
And again, goes back to, again, in Celebrity Ghost Stories, they showed dark lights. It was
It was
dimly lit.
daytime.
It was
We're in the living room.
We're in the living room. Every light was on. And we're all watching TV together and suddenly hear footsteps coming down the hall. Heavy footsteps, adult footsteps. And look up, and I see, and it turns out everybody saw. There was the family room was next to the kitchen, and the kitchen led to the dining room, and there was a doorway between you could see from where we were that went down the hallway between the kitchen and dining room. I hope you understand that. And saw a man, a big man with dark hair, wearing dark clothes, walk past that opening towards the front door. And it wasn't that far, and I jumped up and ran over there, because who the hell is this in our house?
Right.
And there's nobody there. Everybody is gathered together in the family room, and when I asked everybody saw the same thing. Saw, and size-wise it was Vinny, hair color it was Vinny. I mean, who else but, and that was the last time any paranormal thing happened in the house.
It all stopped.
That
Kinda
was
like
all
he was
stopped.
saying goodbye.
She let it go, and to all of us, that was Vinny, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay. Because he was worried about her and worried about us. I'm sure he was. Because this person was a very dangerous person. Initially, when the murder happened, there was so much concern about the fact that this guy was out there and had brought up the death of her brother. I had to leave the country to go to a show. They went down to Florida to be with the family down there. Everybody, just to get out of New York, because it just felt that dangerous.
Plus,
at
we
that
didn't
point.
really know the details on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after all this, what did it change your views on, ghosts and the supernatural or anything like that?
My journey on spirituality just kept growing. First started with my mom, and then it just continued. And you are here now because of
Yes.
Yeah,
this
and I'll just say I
situation.
believe in ghosts. My spirituality didn't continue. I'm in the Matrix, but I support all of them. And we were just talking
You're
on
so
the
full
way.
of shit.
Literally, that was mom passing, and then reading George Anderson books, and then Vinny, and that really kicked it off. That really kicked, because now we knew there's something out there. There's something on the other side. There's another dimension, another world, whatever it is.
Well, this is an interesting thing. So he winded up getting arrested and convicted.
Chris.
Right. Almost a decade
For
later.
3 murders.
A
And
decade later?
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did
I don't
all-
know what it was. Is that
did
how
all-
long it was?
8, 9.
Yeah.
But the tape finally presented itself.
Oh.
Police
and
got
Vinny
the tape.
got this guy, and he's still in jail.
It was the tape that got him.
Wow.
And there were
did all
all the
come
other
out in the wash.
families. The other families were there, and so grateful that my brother, because here their husbands and children
Yeah.
were killed by him, and
He got convicted of 3 murders. He's doing 3 life sentences. And there was 2 more on the tape that we talked about. Those weren't, and Vinny's. They weren't even.
and the guy who actually he hired to kill my brother, they never found him, and his car was on fire, so they believe that he had him killed.
Whoa.
Yeah, I always thought that was when you guys would tell me the story as a kid. It was almost like, that you guys thought you knew who it was, thought it was Chris, but couldn't tell for sure. And when he channeled Vinny, he said, "You know who it is."
Yeah.
And,
He said, I said, who killed you? And he says, you know who killed me. Why are you asking me that?
And then he said, "Let it go. It will all come out in the wash," and it did. It all worked
Yes.
I
and-
wonder if I have that transcription still on my computer.
out. Oh,
Actually,
wait,
'cause
so
I
this-
save everything on my hard drive.
so
I
this-
want to
Yeah.
hear the audio
Yeah.
This is
recording
the
of this.
crazy thing is that so we didn't know anything about the case until the trial. And as we're sitting in the courtroom and listening to the trial, everything that Vinny had told us in people's names, girls that were involved, guys that were involved, are in the transcript that we have. And I
Whoa.
handed it to the FBI agent when I left. I said, read this. I got this from a psychic.
Whoa.
George Anderson. This
Oh,
guy
he
is
We
killed
gotta track
it.
him down.
good.
We gotta track him down. Get him
Wow.
on the show.
He
Okay.
killed it.
All right, so I have the no pun intended. All right, I have a question, and Tanya was sort of asking, but this was like a crux. This was like a threshold. It was a paradigm shifting moment for you and all of us, and we sort of followed in your footsteps because I feel like because you weren't devoutly religious, you really put the pieces together. It really came from sort of like we sort of took the scientific path or whatever science there was, parapsychology, and
Well, my thing was I grew up Catholic,
Yeah.
and I went to Catholic school and got hit by nuns. And when you see the darkness in a religious community that's supposed to represent goodness,
Yeah. Right.
especially with little children who get hit with, sticks and stand them in the corner, I became a non-believer. I said, how can people running a church and be about God hit children?
Yeah.
And I, became against the Catholic religion. Just that, first of all, everyone's going to hell. A loving God doesn't send people to hell. You forgive people, So, well,
You always said to me, "This is hell. Earth is hell."
Yes.
This
Oh my
is,
God, my mom says that
yeah.
too.
She always, as long as I've known her, she said, "I believe this is hell, and we have to survive this. And once we get through this, we ascend to heaven." That was always your belief.
Yeah, it's because there's a lot of pain and suffering on this planet.
makes more sense than the other way around.
And now I know from you guys as part of the journey that you
See?
sign on for.
Who says you're
I
not
learned stuff.
spiritual?
I'm paying attention.
I call him the alien king.
I signed on for the best life ever.
Alien king.
Best life ever.
He is he got it down.
He's so full of shit.
Well,
I don't have the best life.
No, that you're not spiritual.
well, it's his own way, and I think it's more not that he's not spiritual. It's more like the umbrella term of spirituality, because it's such an umbrella term, and it brings in all these different types of people with different thoughts and
religion.
Yeah, and you
Organized
don't,
religion.
you
yeah.
might go, hey, I don't necessarily vibe with all those people or all the things that's under there. Spirituality, quote unquote, is an individual thing. It's an individual relationship.
It's
with
personal.
reality.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Person.
personal.
You're not supposed to agree with everyone.
Yeah, but I think that's more what he
freedom
balks
of
at. He's
will.
more like, nah, man, he does his own thing. He's like, he's doing D. He's like,
Doing the D.
He's doing.
By the
D.
way, I decided
What did you wait.
this is too off. This is his family joke.
What's up?
I said
say it,
I said to Mom the other day, I said, you know what? I don't got time to get old. And she goes, me either. I said, that's it. I'm telling the grandkids, call me Dee Snider.
We call me grandma.
Yeah, call
No
me,
longer
just call me
grandpa
Dee
anymore.
Snider, like everybody else does.
We're taking back our grandparent title.
That's funny, man.
That's so funny.
But it's really important, and this is I got to bail other than observationally, not bail, but this really was the beginning.
It was.
Once now she's seen the truth. I saw it too, and it started to make her get more exploring.
Yeah.
You want to know more. and
Once
find
that
out
door
more.
opens a little
And you guys
bit,
Yes.
saw, as opposed to my world of, of whatever my world is, you all saw it, and you were like, whatever. It all
saw
turned.
it.
You all,
I mean,
every
you
single one
couldn't
of you
deny it.
has become
Yeah,
spiritual
it
in
was-
your own way. You're all, and that's because
it was a
she
great-
was going through this doorway, and you were going, we need to follow this.
Well, this is why we want to talk about it, because it was you, Mom, but it was also, we saw what you just said. It was a glitch in the matrix. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? You just
yeah.
saw reality do something.
No,
Physics.
you heard the drums.
Physics
You
were
saw the
defied.
pictures.
We saw the
you
person.
saw the person walking down the hall.
Physics
You
was
witnessed
broken.
it.
Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
like, okay, there's something here. That's empirical evidence. We just all it's one thing when it happens to you by yourself. You can say, oh well, maybe I.
And that's an
imagined it.
important point. The fact that
Right.
I was in the room when that TV went on like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if she had told me about it, I would have said it probably whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would have believed her, but it was just so real. And,
It had
and
to happen.
We all
Something.
witnessed it. We saw it as a family. We
Right.
saw almost all of this stuff we experienced as a family.
Yeah.
Almost all of it, except for the TV.
And this is sort of my next question, because like it's a phenomenon, right? Like it's a phenomenon. Like you really can't explain it. It happened, you know. I mean, we can explain it from the story you just told, or try to explain it. But you know, there's another step from there's spontaneous phenomenon, and then there's, you know, conscious phenomenon. What I mean by that is like the pursuit in seeking and initiating that phenomenon, engaging with that phenomenon, which is really where all of our paths have gone down. And Mom, you've taken the, you know, the spiritual practice, spiritual path, whatever you want to call it. It's I just call it hacking consciousness. I mean, 'cause,
It's
like,
really
what is
co-creating
it?
with spirit. It's
Yeah.
like starting to have a relationship with it instead of it just happening
Interesting.
around you.
That's very interesting.
Then you work with it.
Because up to then, it was happening to
Yes.
us,
Yeah.
with the exception of her reading books and stuff. But after that, you started wanting to seek it and find
Yes.
more and reach out, more
Connect with
reaching out,
it,
more
yeah.
connecting.
And that's sort of the scientific
Yeah.
part of it. It's like you want to see if you can repeat it and measure it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I mean, look, as for squares, like we say all the time, it stands for dissolving cultural orthodoxies. We feel like the orthodoxies, the religious structures, whatever title you put, it kept us from even looking at it. And
It's
because
conditioning.
It's conditioning.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
we're
it's
programmed,
conditioning.
we go, that looks like that. That looks like that. I don't want to be woo woo. I don't want to
Yeah.
be.
Right.
But it's like, oh, no, it's that. This is just life. People just
See,
put
but
it in these
peop-
boxes
people
and try to
have these
understand it.
experiences all the time.
100%.
Yeah.
But you brush it off. Like
A lot of people explain it. No,
That didn't
same,
happen.
Same.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting with you? I just remembered something, and Mom will remember it. I think it's important. I think you particularly of the kids. You know, I'm going to go with this.
No, I have no idea where it's
Oh,
at.
but I think you must have always been wondering about this for some reason. Because I remember we lived in Dix Hills, and you said, I want to go to church
yeah.
You did take
on
me-
Sunday, and you
only
said,
once.
yeah, but you only wanted. You just wanted. I said,
No, we went to
the one
church
over
in
there?
Florida. Do you
We
remember
did.
that
You
fun
had
one?
he had red hair at the time from shooting Strangeland,
Yeah.
and you said I may burst into flames.
He was very little, so you may not remember. In Florida, we went.
Yeah, we went
but
to
you
Florida, yeah.
consciously said, "I want to go to church. Will you take me to church on Sunday?" So I said it was around the corner. It was a little quiet Protestant. I don't know which sect it was, and I said, "Okay." And we went in. I just finished Strangeland. Had what these kids used to call me at school.
Yarn head.
Yarn head. My hair was fading to like pink, and I used to jog past the school, and the
kids would
they used
chase
to
you.
call me Yarn head. And I said, they call me
'cause
Yarn
we
head.
dyed it
Tell them
red.
Yarn head's going to come get them in their sleep. But anyway, we got
for a
dressed. We got
spiritual show.
dressed.
We got dressed.
We went to church.
I went to Sunday school.
We
and
were sad. He went to Sunday
they,
school.
they were very sweet, and then they said okay, and then they handed me the book. I said I was told there would be no reading.
The same thing would happen to me. I went to
Excuse
church
me.
and I was like, homework? Why? I don't want to do the. Wait a
I thought
second.
you guys were just super friendly
Yeah,
and cool,
right.
man. I didn't think you think you read
Homework.
stuff.
But that shows me that you were young. You were thinking about this stuff and wondering and curious.
I'm interested.
So it's and look where you are now. And of course, your mom finds this something that speaks to her, and then you follow her down that path. But you were already wondering as a kid. You were wondering and thinking about these things
It's
and
the
looking.
mystery of life, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, and also like
How
even
old were you when I took you to learn TM?
TM
Yeah.
20. Well, I
I thought
was
you were younger than that.
no, I was 23.
23?
Yeah, 23. Yeah, no, that started. That was the journey. But even that was more like a mental health and like it was like a mindfulness thing. I didn't know. We're talking about mindfulness, which is so funny. Mindfulness is sort of this Western rebranding of all these Eastern wisdom teachings. And so and they've cherry picked and sort of rebranded like yoga, meditation, breath work, right? And you have sort of, and they've sort of made it for the Western mind. But if you really unpack those wisdom teachings, I mean, it's fucking crazy. And you really start to experiment with them the same way you can with meditation. And, and it's wild, and I think that's one of the things we want to do here is we want to bring science along for the ride and see if we can measure and repeat it. And I mean, so I think this is like a good, because we're
Yeah,
coming
we're
to our
wrap it up.
end. Mom, so tell me this, because you came to the medicine. We talked about it on our first show, Waking Underground. You were able to work with these medicines and initiate spiritual experience, for lack of a better word. have you ever had any contact with your ancestors, your deceased loved ones, one-on-one?
During ceremony?
During any ceremonies, yeah. And how does this change your perception of how you used to view the phenomenon of the haunting to maybe how you perceive
Why
it
did you
now?
point to my crotch when you said that?
The haunting.
I was like, that was so awkward.
It's how we know him. I came from there. Right?
Did you see it? I totally gestured. He gestured right at my crotch.
That's his nickname, the haunted.
Dad, do you have a name for your schwanz?
No, I don't.
Yes,
You don't? You
I
don't?
call him many things.
I've asked the wrong question here. Okay, back to spirituality. What is and if you're wondering, mine is named Mr. Business
It is.
and the Busy Boys,
Those are the testicles.
and my asshole's the accountant. Okay, so tell me, we can edit all this out, or we can not, and then you just know how real we are. Okay, so I just want you to, from your perception of the phenomenon, then to because you've done a lot of like hardcore spiritual. Yeah, you've like done a lot of work on yourself. You've sat in many ceremonies, many teachers. What is your perception of the phenomenon with Uncle Vinny, and how did you view it now, and how would you look at it then? How did you view it then, and how would you look at it now? Sorry, thank you, getting it out.
Well, I look at things now like I'm playing a game, and like it's a video game, and everything is a test. And none of it is actually real. Up there is real, and we're like puppets in this game that they're playing. So I try not to take things so seriously anymore. And during my ayahuasca, that's why I wanted to do ayahuasca, I had a lot of trauma around death. And she showed me that death was not the end, it's just the beginning. And my opinion on death has changed completely. I no longer feel like they're dying. They're there. When we die, they're there. When our game is over, they're there. And they're just waiting for us. And there's comfort for that. And you're not being judged whether you're good or not, because we're all here trying to learn a lesson. And we can't judge anyone because everyone's lesson is different. And when
Can
you
I add
realize
something in
that-
here?
Yes.
I've been with her 48 years. She has dealt with the passing of so many people close to her. It's terrified me. Honestly, I'm not making a joke here. I said, because when I found out about your journey, I'm going, holy crap, maybe I'm next. Because when she was in high school, friends, cancer and dying, best friends by this, I'm not like making you cry, family members and murder and suicide and oh my God. And I've got virtually none except old age in my side of the family, yet she has experienced so much and it's been so brutal on her. And when she did ayahuasca and made these discoveries and learned these lessons, it seemed like, the next part was being a little funny, because it seemed like this was why she had found ayahuasca, that she was here to learn these lessons, and Mother Ayahuasca helped her understand. Then I was concerned she was going to leave because her lessons was learned. And I go, you got more to learn. You got to stay. I'm not ready. I'm ready to give you up yet. But true. But oh my God, the amount of suffering she's been through with the loss of family and friends.
But my perspective on it has changed completely. I no longer look at death as the end. It's really the beginning. And
for sure.
That's the best thing about being on this journey, is that you become happier because you realize that this journey is all about learning lessons.
Right.
And if you learn the lesson and you absorb the lesson, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And
But not finished.
no,
There's
but
more to
even,
do.
the thing about judging has been very poignant for me, that we can't look at anyone and say that person's a bad person because that's, okay, I'm going to backtrack here.
Go ahead. Get
One
it,
of the
Mom.
things that I had read in the George Anderson book was, now here I hated Chris and I wanted revenge against Chris. And George talks about in the book that we are soul groups and that we come down together all to learn different lessons. And the person who committed the murder for your brother in the next life might be his wife or his child. But he was here. His lesson was to commit a murder and learn that lesson and going into prison. And when you look at things from that perspective, it's like, wow, everybody is on their own path. And we can't take everything so personal, like things are against us, because they're on their path learning their lesson, and this is their journey.
Yeah.
And my brother's journey was to be murdered. And my journey was to suffer from my brother being murdered to help me on my spiritual path. Because my mother died, my brother died, and then my other brother committed suicide because that brother got murdered, my mother died. And that pushed me right into the arms of, spirituality. And I'm here, and I'm the person who I am because of all these traumas that I experienced.
Right.
And then trying to release these traumas, which has been tough, really hard.
And now I know what your other part of your journey is. No joke, but she is now helping others,
Yeah.
educating. As she went with you to your first ceremony,
Yeah.
she's helping people on that path. She's working on a book. Because Mother Ayahuasca told her, everybody's been telling her. My mom from the grave told her, finish your book. Because she's
Yeah.
been through so much, she needs to
Amazing story.
share
can't wait
these
for the book.
stories and help others now. So that really is the next part of your journey.
It's, and your story is, it's just a story of resilience, but, part of it is so many people are grieving and so many people are living with fear of death.
Right.
And I think that's like the medicine that you bring. And honestly, that's like a lot of people look at us cross-eyed, like, oh, you're making like a spiritual like show, like what, and we're like, it's because there's so much suffering. It's not about spirituality. It's about relinquishing a fear of death. And a wise person once
But
said,
suffering is because of we indulge in it, and we all feel sorry for ourselves, and we're all victims, and it's all me, me, me. And once we could step out of our shadow and look at ourselves and realize that it's all about the lessons.
Yeah.
And none of it is personal. And we agreed to it before we came
do
down.
you think this is a school, this place?
Absolutely.
That's why we're here?
Absolutely. And it's all about moving forward and learning lessons.
What did a wise person say?
Wise person once said, the secret to life is to die before you die and discover death isn't real. And
I achieved that.
Exactly. And it's sort of scary, especially like you do shamanic ceremonies. It's like there's like a death, you die, everything shuts down and you're like, oh, fuck, I did it. I killed, but then you're like, oh, I'm alive.
But
and
I
I'm out of my
died,
body.
and it was the most beautiful thing I ever experienced.
What was it like?
So much love, and
What was it like?
I was connected to everything. And I know I'm connected, but not on this level. Like, not on this level.
true
and the
unconditional.
love, you can't even, I want to just cry thinking of the love that you feel. You never want it to go away because it's the most intense, incredible feeling. And I didn't want to come back. I said, I want to go back. And they said, your job's not done yet. And that's why I'm not afraid of death. And no one should be afraid of death. No one. I look forward to it. I look forward to dying. And because you don't die.
Stay with us, Mom.
It's just this, our
Temporary
avatar
thing.
dies, but we don't die.
Right.
Our soul
The
continues.
immortal
We're not
soul,
going to get back
baby.
to the flesh suit, are we? That brings us right back to Awaken Under. The flesh suit.
He's referring to episode 1 of Awakening, where she astral projects from her body and shits her pants simultaneously. And I believe meets a group of aliens, but that can be saved for next episode. I just want to say, because we should wrap this up, but just whenever I get the chance, I love you both with all my heart.
Yeah, I
You're
love
the
you
best
guys.
parents in the world, and
We loved you first, Cody.
you
Aw.
guys are the
That's a
best
good line I
parents.
got out
It's
of a
cute.
movie.
It's
true.
cute.
I love you first.
You're the best parents.
Yeah.
I can't. I just I'm so grateful, and thanks for being vulnerable and sharing your story, and Dad just sharing your fucking epic charisma.
Thanks for the coffee.
And his caffeine.
Yeah, and the caffeine. We're all
You're the
dying
best.
over
We're
here.
all doing a ceremony this weekend for Tanya's birthday.
Thanks. Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
we're all
Yeah.
no caffeine.
We will all be
No
a
caffeine,
skin
no
suit
sex.
in 3 days.
A skin suit. And now we're going to go out and eat a bowl of dirt
Dieta, baby.
and a cup of
Dieta
grass.
diet.
Yes. And I'm going to try and find something on that menu
You
that's
poor man.
edible.
You can have dirt and grass
I
with us.
appreciate it. Hey, I love you both so much. This is the Ask for Squares podcast. Thank you for everything. Hey, do you want to actually plug anything where people can go to find you or anything? You have a...
You'll never find me. No. dsnider.com. Just go there.
Just
Snider
Google.
with an I.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
got
like
it.
to be found.
Suzette's in hiding.
Don't go
That's
on
how
my-
she got in this
I don't
swell
go on my
horse's outfit.
Instagram or
Hey,
my Facebook.
that's a
so
good way to
don't
be.
contact me.
Good for you. I'm sure you're happy and healthier
I'm
for it.
anti-technology.
All right, that's all, folks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.